got 75 miles to the gallon. If I didn't have the ability to work on cars, or the right to work on them, or the ability to own it, that car wouldn't exist. What's up, people? It is a late evening here at the shop, and tonight I want to get sort of philosophical. There's a topic I have seen hinted on in different places in concepts that relate to the news, as it relates to the automobile. But this concept is a thread and a base that carries through all of our societies. And as it relates to cars, that's simply ownership, as well as the right to work on your car. Now, I have to preface this conversation by saying I am in no way taking a political standpoint relating to any party affiliation. For all those of you that really want to force me into some sort of category, please don't do that. I like to remain the ability to think for myself and go there. I think it's a valuable thing. So let's keep the politics out of it, and let's just have some philosophy here to discuss life, people, and kind of human nature as it relates to cars. So for those of you who are already subscribed to me, I build cars. I'm building the King Zero V12 supercar, largely from scratch right there. That is my scratch-built Omega car prototype, which was to basically exemplify or be an example of what a recyclable, sustainable recyclable manufacturing concept would be, and it's high efficiency and it's a cool sports car. Back there is the Genius Garage Yellow IMSA Corvette, which I have built with students and mentored them. It's really helped kickstart careers and jobs for young people. And there's a smattering of other interesting things here, including the world's only full-scale flying pterosaur, which is a 38-foot wingspan, just because why not? So anyway, ownership of cars. On this channel, and if you aren't subscribed, please subscribe. We're doing all kinds of crazy and interesting things, so you should stick around. But in regard to ownership, I have hinted upon these concepts with some of my more inexpensive builds. I recently, or last year, bought a Porsche 944 for $3,000. And did a series of videos where I fixed it up, did major maintenance on it, shown what to look for and how people can find a good car and what to do with it, largely for the sake of I want young people and people out there who aspire to something or enjoy cars, or sports cars, and nice things in life, that it doesn't necessarily require a lot of money. But more than that, I want young people to realize the value of the ability to maintain your own things. While sometimes it's better in a business level or cost effective to have somebody else do it, possibly more skilled than you, it's still very important for all of us to be able to be a little hands-on, a little can-do attitude, you know, from generations past, and not just call somebody on our cell phones to bail us out. You know, have your toolbox and know how to use it, so to speak. But what's interesting on that, and I'm getting to the aspect of ownership and why that's important. If you can maintain your own car, you have control over that. You have the ability to potentially not get ripped off by an unscrupulous dealer or potentially mechanic, something of which I've spoken about on this channel numerous times, and I think millions of people can relate to very well. But also, you have the ability to beat depreciation curves with new cars by buying a used one and maintaining it. And if you maintain a car for a long time, a modern car, a good car, a safe car that does highway speeds well and is comfortable, by maintaining it for a long time, you don't have to use all of the energy and resources of the world to create a new car all of the time. And it's potentially, frankly, a lot better for the environment. But that isn't necessarily the best thing for consumerism. So there's a lot of layers of everything that's going on in this topic, but I'm going to try to keep it kind of concise to that aspect of ownership and the right to work on it. Anyway, ownership. I think it's very important for people to strive to own their car outright. And if they don't own it outright, to not lease. I realize there are certain circumstances in which leasing could be beneficial, maybe tax implications, etc., relating to a business. But for the general people out there, leasing a car, I've always thought was stupid, because all you're doing is renting it. It's not yours. You can't modify it. You can't really work on it. And it's not yours. It could be taken away at any given time. So it also this frankly gets into the topic of just ownership in general. If you don't own your car, if none of us own our own cars and we simply lease them, we're at the whim of what the nature of the auto industries, led by whatever governing bodies or people, or generally speaking, whatever most powerful entities are out there to dictate what we do with cars and transportation. And in my limited amount of time, powerful entities are never as smart as people. And that's, I think, what the heart is of the United States of America was supposed to be, a democracy, because the people are smart. And I think you get that. I don't want to get this too close to politics. But it starts to make me concerned when we see the rise of the autonomous car. We see less and less people owning vehicles, more and more leases, etc. The more that happens, the more we lose the ability to control our own destinies. Literally to drive, literally to own, literally to dictate, this is the way I want to live. And when you start losing control of your own destinies, that means you're going to be paying somebody else. And that somebody else, whomever or whatever that may be, wants more power and money. So they're going to continually try to get more and more out of you. To what end? So I think there's so much value in owning your own things and maintaining your own things. If a new product comes along in the future that you would like to invest in, well, that's fantastic. And that's what, frankly, capitalism, consumerism, all that jazz is supposed to be good, that you have a better product and eventually get it in a way that makes sense for you in the long run as a person. And hopefully the environment and things like that too. But I see our own abilities as people, our rights, and our control, shall we say, goes away little by little. It's lost to regulations. It's lost to the power of insurance companies. It's lost to the cost of doing things. And in my experience, the way I don't know if I'd say entity, but any thing, person, body, group, the way anything gets power away from people is by offering them something little that they think is big. It's kind of like, they say a drug dealer gets people hooked, so you give them a little something for free so they get hooked and they want to come back and get more and more and more. The difference is when you look on a global level as it pertains to cars and your right to work on them and your right to own them and property and things like that is they offer you, instead of a drug, they offer you the thought of safety, the thought of security. Doesn't mean you're going to get it. The thought of stability. Things that all people want and need. But to what end and what cost? I really, really hope you all can just think of this in a philosophical way, because by no means am I looking at politics or a political party. I just think it's a fascinating concept to think of. And I think if we can all think of things like this rationally and reasonably, without jumping to conclusions and wanting to fight on the internet, we'll all be better off and maybe find somewhere to come together. So, needless to say, I think it's very important for us to own our own things or strive to own our own things. Even if that's something cheaper, even if that's something not as good as you want or as safe as you want or as fancy as you want, it's still important. It's something you take pride in. And the same can be said for your ability to work on your own vehicle. Obviously, it's up to you and us to keep it safe. And we have things in place. If you're doing a terrible job, you'll see that. But in general, everybody does a good job maintaining it, mechanics and such. And I think our roadways are reasonably safe. Our police officers are safety. Everything does quite a good job considering what a motor vehicle actually is and what traffic actually is. But in working on your own car, it's the same thing as ownership. If you're no longer allowed to work on your own car, you're at the beck and call, or you're at the beck and call of whatever entity deems it to be one way or another. You have no control over how much it's going to cost you. Basically none. You have no control of when it gets fixed or how it gets fixed. And you have no way to get ahead. So if I can go out and buy an awesome secondhand car for $5,000 that's in good shape that I enjoy, and I could maintain it myself and drive it indefinitely. Let's say I have to spend $500 a year or $750 a year. Isn't that better than going out and buying an average car for $30,000 and losing $20,000 to depreciation over a bunch of time and then having to maintain it after that? It can be. And then having to do it again and again. Just look at dealerships, crappy dealerships. Look how much they rip people off. How many of you been charged hundreds of dollars just for them to look at it and then tell you nothing's wrong? How many of you have been screwed on warranties? I think it's very important for us to own our own cars or strive to own them. I don't like leases because it's a slippery slope. If in some capacity that works for you, great, but don't sacrifice the thought of comfort and just money going out, because at the end of the day, you own nothing and you're just losing money all the time. And even if you never want to work on your car, I think it's important we all realize as people anywhere, and especially Americans, that it's very important that we all have the right to take care of our own lives in that regard. And on that note, I really want to say the Omega car, I built that to represent different sustainable, recyclable manufacturing techniques. It already is accelerating similarly to my Dodge Viper, and in the very first test of 15 miles, just screwing around and not even trying, and not being a hybrid electric, it got 75 miles to the gallon. If I didn't have the ability to work on cars, or the right to work on them, or the ability to own it, that car wouldn't exist. Think about it. If we didn't have the right to do those sorts of things, Genius Garage wouldn't exist. All of the students over the last 7 years that have gotten incredible jobs at tier 1 companies and have amazing careers in industry, maybe wouldn't have gotten that shot. That car there that's inspiring hundreds of thousands of people through the internet, that I'm building a supercar for less than $20,000 and stuff to inspire, wouldn't have been possible. The engineering that goes into those cars, the art, and the human aspects of heart, inspiration, none of that would exist if we or I wasn't able to own my own stuff and work on it. It's more than just cars. Airplanes and aviation's the same way. In America, we have the Experimental Aircraft Association, and it is still totally doable and totally legal for you to design and build your own airplane and fly it legally from scratch. That's incredible. And while only so many people will do that, the ability to live in a country where we have that right and that ability to do something that smart and better for tomorrow as people is so important. And the more I do YouTube and connect with people, the more I build things, the more I create and grow Genius Garage to help forward young people's careers and build things like the Omega car, the more I appreciate living in the United States of America. I simply love this country. Is the country perfect? Maybe not. Was the original concept perfect? Well, all men are created equal. It gives us a fair shot. I think that's pretty good. But human nature is a funny thing. The one thing I've learned, which is frustrating, you'd think people would get by this for civilization is, and I wonder if we'll ever get past the need to have power over other people. Because that's the slippery slope. That's where the drug dealer gets you. Because there will always be power-hungry people. And the power can be anything. It can be money, it can be influence, it can be control. There's many ways to, I don't want to say enslave, but there's many ways to make people work for you and let them believe that their life is okay. That's a bigger concept. I don't want to get into that. But human nature is frustrating in that way. And you can't assume that people aren't going to do that. And you can't assume that governing bodies will stop people from doing that and help it be an equal playing field. It frankly comes down to us as people to not give away ourselves. It's important for us to, care about our own cultures and our love and fight and push back and hold for the ability to create your own destiny. And I think you can see that with cars. I see it here and there. Just look. And again, please don't put this into politics. I didn't really want to wait another year to talk about this conversation because I think it's fascinating. So if you get anything out of this, and for the trolls that are going to lose their minds probably, just realize we're in this together, and I'm just bringing this up so maybe we all have the right to have something for the future. I saw something recently that someone wanted to get rid of all personal property. Nobody has anything. That would never happen because somebody is at least going to control something. And if nobody has anything, somebody is going to have everything. A funny concept. So long story short, I hope you own your car or strive to own your car and you're really proud of it. Whether it's a $500 beater, $5,000 old sports car, or a $500,000 fancy pants, whatever. Good for you. And even if you don't work on your car yourself or build crazy things like me and my students, I hope you at least appreciate that we can do that in America and that you respect that ability and at least help keep it to exist for everybody that wants to do something with it. Because frankly, it's in all of our best interests. So guys, that was my thought for this evening. It's late at night. I was working on this car. I'm glad I have that ability and opportunity, of course. And I don't know, it's kind of a late night shop talk. But food for thought, comment below. No BS political party malarkey. And keep in mind there's zillions of cultures, loads of people. I mean, I shouldn't say zillions, but there's lots of cultures, there's lots of people. And there's lots of ways to look at something. And I think we should all respect everybody's ability to choose that for themselves. But it's fun to think about these things, isn't it? See you guys next time.